Welcome back, folks, to part two of our special report, Government Shutdowns, Past and Present. During this portion of our program, we will consider what is different about the 2025 government shutdown. How does it compare to the shutdown clear back in 1975 under President Ford, or the shutdowns during the Carter or Reagan administration, or for that matter, even during the Obama administration? How will average Americans be impacted? What effects are the shutdown having on federal employees, and what makes this budgetary stalemate different from previous government shutdowns? And now, part two of our program. The current shutdown has left around 750,000 federal employees furloughed and others working without pay. Think of TSA agents or air traffic controllers. Funding for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, is lapsing as of Friday, October 31st, affecting 1 in 8 Americans who rely on it to help buy groceries. Nonetheless, it's mostly been business as usual for Trump over the past 29 days. It's like that country song, "Sometimes falling feels like flying for a little while," said Paul Begala, a Democratic strategist and former advisor to President Bill Clinton, who presided over 2 shutdowns between 1995 and 1996. They seem to be like, so far so good, man. So what's different this go around? Well, Trump is on a 6-day swing through Asia after a recent whirlwind Middle East visit to celebrate a U.S.-brokered ceasefire deal in Israel's war with Hamas in Gaza. He hosted a White House fundraiser for major donors to his $300 million, maybe it's $350 million, it seems to change by the day, the ballroom that has seen construction crews tear down the east wing of the White House, and he held another fundraiser at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida. Members of the cabinet have similarly hit the road. Vice President J.D. Vance traveled to Israel. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem went to Portland, Oregon to decry the protests there. And Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth got a first-hand look at Top Gun, the U.S. Navy's elite fighter weapons school out in Nevada. Only 32% of the staff in the executive office of the president were set to be furloughed during the current shutdown, according to data in a contingency report from the White House Budget Office. That's down from 61% during the last shutdown in 2018 and 2019, during Trump's first term. About half of the executive mansion's team of housekeepers, ushers, valets, and butlers are currently working. Last time, more than 70% were furloughed. It's often been hard to tell a shutdown is happening with so many staffers remaining at their desk. I don't even know if they're supposed to be working, but they wouldn't miss a day, Trump said during an event last week. It's a departure from Trump's first term, when he cut out a weekend of golf games and canceled a planned trip to Mar-a-Lago for Christmas during the 2018 shutdown, which stretched into the new year. He made a surprise visit to troops over in Iraq, but then nixed plans to go to the Swiss Alps for the World Economic Forum. Back in his first term, when he hosted Clemson University football players to celebrate their NCAA football championship, Trump brought in burgers and fries from McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's, and pizza from Domino's because of the White House staff furloughs. There just simply wasn't enough kitchen staff to be able to support the venue that he was having and all the guests that he was entertaining. This time, the president had Republican senators over for lunch that also featured burgers, but staff made them. They do great food at the White House, Trump said. Oh, so Republican senators get food made by White House staff that in your first term would have been furloughed. And when Clemson University shows up, you feed them McDonald's and Burger King and Wendy's and Domino's. Republican senators show up and they get burgers made from scratch by White House kitchen staff. Trump seems to think he's taking a smarter approach, barreling ahead like there's no shutdown happening right now at all. Has some political advantages for Trump, allies say. It allows him to look presidential while avoiding congressional bickering. It's a much smarter approach, said Mark Short, Chief of Staff to former Vice President Mike Pence. In Trump's first-term shutdown, he rejected a congressional compromise to force the government to close and attempt to win funding for a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border, which incidentally never got built all the way. Then he named Pence as lead negotiator to end the shutdown while involving his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, creating the visual of the pair having to go to Capitol Hill on a daily basis to look like they were busy. The first go-round, he was pretty clear. With cameras rolling, he said he wanted to end the shutdown. Well, actually, he wanted the shutdown. He claimed ownership of it, Short said. This time, the White House has been clear about not owning it. So the first time they wanted it, now they don't. So what's changed? Back in 1995, Paul Begala, recalled talking strategy with President Bill Clinton during a sweaty summer run at Fort McNair in Washington, and telling the president that Republican House Speaker Newt Gingrich and his party think they can roll you to make cuts to Medicare by threatening a shutdown. Clinton responded, "My favorite movie's High Noon," Begala recalled, referring to the 1952 Western in which a marshal stands up to the outlaws. They do that. Then I just have a Gary Cooper High Noon moment. That's easy. When Gingrich later came to the White House to negotiate, Begala said Clinton refused to budge, even though some advisors urged him to cut a deal. Voters ultimately blamed congressional Republicans more than the White House for the government closing, and Bill Clinton, well, he was easily reelected in 1996. That could have gone really badly for Clinton, Begala said, but he did understand that standing strong and having a Gary Cooper moment would be really good for him. So what does former Chief of Staff Leon Panetta have to say? Well, Trump could probably find a way to end the current shutdown if he wanted to prioritize it, Leon Panetta said, who worked to end past government closures as Bill Clinton's Chief of Staff. But Trump's attention, nah, it's focused on everything but sitting down and getting both parties together to resolve this issue, he said. During the 16-day government shutdown of 2013, President Barack Obama scrapped a 4-country Asia trip and skipped the swanky Congressional Hispanic Caucus Gala. His schedule featured events meant to show the effects of the shutdown, including visiting a Maryland construction firm that benefited from the kind of federal business and the loans that were being jeopardized with the government being shuttered. In 2019, as that shutdown dragged on, Trump's White House officials acknowledged feeling pressure to end it, worried that Trump's polling numbers could suffer. This time, the administration's public messaging has been to blame the Democrats while signaling that it's prepared to wait, to stall, to take their time. Even warning of coming travel delays during the upcoming Thanksgiving holidays. President Trump is continuing to work night and day on behalf of the American people. White House spokesperson Abigail Jackson said in a statement, "The entire administration, including the president, will continue highlighting the workers and families who are suffering because of the Democrats' decision to shut down the government." Really? The Democrats' decision? But they don't have control of either chamber of commerce, of Congress. Bill Daley, a White House chief of staff to Obama in the years prior to the 2013 shutdown, said Trump isn't acting like he's feeling political heat to reopen the government even before next Tuesday's gubernatorial elections in Virginia and New Jersey, both home to sizable federal workforces. I have a feeling I know why. Trump realizes he can't run in 2028. He's constitutionally barred from running for a third term. He knows that. He doesn't want to admit it. He talks about a third term being even more glorious than the first two, and he's going to make America the greatest it's ever been. Mm-hmm. But he can't keep the government open. He can't get congressional leaders to sit down with one another and negotiate and compromise, as happened during previous presidential administrations, such as during the Carter administration, the Reagan administration, George H.W. Bush's term, which wasn't even that long of a shutdown. Even Barack Obama got the job done faster. He only had, 13 days worth of shutdowns? Meanwhile, George W. Bush, the only shutdown that happened during his term was a direct result of the 9/11 attacks. And that was only at monuments and schools and libraries, and only because they were afraid that they had to protect the people that would be inside attending classes or visiting the museums and monuments and parks around the country. So during the George W. Bush administration, the shutdown, for what it was not financially or congressionally motivated. It was based on this notion that the U.S. could be at any moment under imminent attack. During the Biden administration, Joe Biden worked with both sides of the aisle, got the job done. He signed congressional resolutions that lengthened previous year's budgets, continuing resolutions they call them. He signed budget deals. He worked with both sides of the aisle. And he got the job done. Well, Trump has said the government must reopen, but also used the shutdown. My guess is he thinks it helps him, Daley said. Until, and I don't know if it will, the bottom falls out. Democrats are demanding an extension of expiring tax credits that have helped millions of people afford health insurance, while Republicans have refused to negotiate until the government is reopened. Trump has said the government must reopen, but also use the shutdown to cut federal positions and target programs that Democrats favor, all while redistricting various congressional districts throughout the country and redirecting funds to meet his own priorities, like covering military paychecks. The president has even said of closing museums, and the ones that are already shuttered, we should probably just open them. Okay, but that hasn't happened yet. Americans, meanwhile, are divided on who's to blame. Roughly 6 in 10 say Trump and congressional Republicans have a great deal or quite a bit of responsibility for the shutdown, while 54% say that the Democrats in Congress, according to a recent poll from the Associated Press Newark Center for Public Affairs Research. Mike McCurry, a White House press secretary under Clinton, said that Democrats have yet to settle on a clear shutdown message that has resonated. Trump has the presidency to deliver his take, but McCurry noted he's been mercurial, I would add, at best. It's not likely we're going to have clear winners or losers after this, McCurry said. It's going to be a bit of a muddle. Okay, well, as somebody who's not in Mike McCurry's position, I would argue there's going to be a lot of losers. Okay, people are losing their SNAP benefits, and they're making the decision, do I buy food or do I pay my rent? Do I go to the pharmacy and get my prescriptions, or do I buy food? Do I take care of grandma in the nursing home, who needs a little extra stuff on the side just to make sure she gets through month after month? Do I pay her nursing home bills when other subsidies from the state and the federal government aren't coming through? These are very difficult decisions a lot of Americans are making right now. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of losers starting this weekend. And where's Trump been? The Senate voted for a 13th time Tuesday to reject a Republican-backed clean spending plan that would reopen the government, and Democrats are refusing to support the short-term budget without assurances that Affordable Care Act tax credits, set to expire at the end of the year on December 31st, they will expire. The Democrats want those extended and Medicaid cuts to be reversed. The Senate needs at least 7 Democrats to vote in favor of the bill to break the 60-vote filibuster threshold, assuming all Republicans approve the legislation. And up to this point, about the only Democrat who's even come close to voting with Republicans is Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman. Also on the fence, you have to understand, also on the fence are senators like Rand Paul of Kentucky, who's voted against the continuing resolution. And then there are the fence sitters, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska and Susan Collins of Maine, who are up for very serious re-elections on their own. Now, Trump and his allies, again, they've repeatedly blamed Democrats for the shutdown, and many federal agencies have posted notices to their websites, including the Veterans Administration, HUD, the Agriculture Department, and others. They've posted notices on their websites attributing a potential lapse in government services to Democrats' refusal to vote for the Republican spending plan. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem has gone so far as to create videos which were intended to be shown to airport travelers, and several airports across the country refused to play them in public. Trump himself has been largely removed from shutdown negotiations. He stayed out of it all. And he's made clear that he plans to punish Democrats for the shutdown by permanently cutting programs and agencies that align with their priorities, though a federal judge on Tuesday indefinitely blocked the Trump administration from making layoffs during the shutdown. Any layoffs that happened before the shutdown, those are okay for now. Those that have happened since the shutdown began on October 1st, those are all nixed. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll discuss what happens next with the government shutdown. We'll be right back after this.